So, right up there with having to fire someone, this is one of the most awkward conversations I think you'll have to have as a business owner, and one that you might dread, which is if you are planning to exit your business, the conversation that you need to have with your employees, telling them about this. And it could be super confusing. Like, when do you tell them? What do you even say? How do you actually explain this to them? And how do you prime them where they don't leave? Because what you may not realize is that if you're in the process of an exit and you're selling your company, part of that might include the team. So if the buyer is buying the team, you need to be sure that you're keeping the team intact and that that is part of the offer for you. So you have a vested interest in making sure that the team is on board with this and actually enthusiastic as much as they can be, which is super challenging, especially if you're a founder who's well connected to your employees and you've really invested in them, which I hope you have. They could be super loyal to you. And this could basically go really south really fast if you don't handle it the right way. Now, I'll preface this to say there's no right or wrong way to do this, really. It depends on your business and it depends on your employees. So at the end of the day, you can choose not to listen to any of this advice. But ultimately, I'm going to tell you a few things that I've seen work and not work. I'm going to tell you about different ways that people have reacted and also just kind of prime you for this conversation to give you some ideas on what you could do to handle. So if you feel inspired to include some of this, you could. So it's really key to retain core team during a business sale. It's super key because this is part of what the buyer is buying. So, with that, you're going to want to share the news about the sale once the sale has progressed to a certain point where it's not completely finalized yet, because you don't want to wait until after it's already finalized and you've already sold them, basically. You want to give them an opportunity to voice any concerns and talk through it. You may even want to have individual conversations with certain people you know will react a different way. So, you really want to just prime everyone with the news and be able to manage expectations and provide clarity on it and also foster transparency. Because if you say, hey, I sold the business in a past tense, it looks kind of shady, I think, because it's like, oh, you've been working on this for months and haven't told us. So there's a bit of a trust break that happens there. And I think that that can do a little bit of damage. So, what you want to be really mindful of is the empathy of this might be catching people off guard. This might be surprising people. So you have to make sure that you're handling that news in a very, in an exploratory way and say, hey, I'm currently exploring a sale and I'm going to bring in some new resources that will help our company grow and thrive. I'm really excited to bring them on. Your role and expertise will be critical to this transition. And I know that this will help them succeed. Like keeping everything super positive and light in order to make sure that the employees understand that this is a positive move in the right direction and not you just like jumping overboard. You want to emphasize how it will benefit the business, especially and them and their career as well going through it. Make sure that they understand that their roles and contributions are valued and explain that if they have any plans that they've communicated, tell them about what the buyer plans to do or bring them into the conversation. So make it clear that there is a plan, that you have a plan, and that you'll be articulating it soon. You want to come across that you know what you're doing and you know what's going to happen. If you come across shaky where you're like, I'm really not sure yet, that uncertainty just permeates into like discomfort, insecurity, and a lot of panic. So you want to come across as secure, come across prepared, certain of what's going to happen, and be really clear that this is a positive move for your business. You may even want to choose to provide financial incentives to staying through the sale or staying a certain number of months after the sale, where people get bonuses unlocked for assisting with the transition, things like that. Maybe even equity or profit sharing. It will really depend on who the buyer is, who the seller is, and whether you can offer some sort of job security guarantee to negotiate terms with the buyer to make sure everybody keeps their job for a certain period of time. That's also going to be key. So be thinking about not just your own self interest when you're negotiating with the buyer, but think about your employees too and what will help keep them aboard and make sure that you show that you are also fighting for them. You may even want to ask for their input on certain terms of the sale, not like the whole contract and like opening this up to them, but I mean in terms of the expectations, right? So, for example, if you have a buyer and you're selling your business, the buyer might want to overhaul the sales process or the invoicing process. Make it clear that you have experts on your team that can offer insights on this and how to make their processes better. They can work well with new management. And I would encourage the buyer, honestly, in those conversations to not change too much too quickly. Make sure that the customer and the employee are both still comfortable with how things are being run because of the familiarity. And then just transition that in an easy way, not, a hard transition where you're just dropping everything and starting fresh. That's going to be a shock to the system for a lot of people. And definitely introduce the buyer into the conversations, make sure people know that this is somebody you know and trust, share what it was that attracted you to them as a buyer. Keep operations as normal as possible. So keep everything humming along as though nothing's going on and make sure that they know that nothing's really changing. It's just going to be under new management. Not that nothing's really changing. Like a lot will be changing, but you want to reassure them that it's not as dire as they may think it is. You definitely want to keep the temperature lukewarm. You don't want us to have it spike one way or the other. You don't want people to be into a total sense of panic. You just want to keep everyone kind of regulated. They can be a little bit uncertain, a little curious, but you want to keep them in that zone where it's like, okay, I'm open to thinking about this. I'm open to this idea and I want to hear what they have to say. Um, you want to be looking at retention as a key thing to focus on of what you can do to retain employees and reward loyalty. Be able to recognize and reward loyalty. So, a key thing here is speaking with the buyer about what they can offer as well and what you can negotiate into the terms. I think that's key. The other thing you want to look at is non-competes as well, just so you know, because an employee could leave and go start their own thing because you're leaving. Admittedly, there might be some employees that are only working there because of you. And by that, I mean they're working for you, they're not working for the company, and they really like you as a manager. And that's totally fine. I mean, kudos if that's the case. But what's going to end up happening is that no matter how good of a company and how good of a manager come in to purchase your company, it's not you. So no matter what, it's not you. And they're going to navigate that in a different way. They may resist. They may say, I'm going to leave this company because Shannon's not there anymore. Okay, fine. So when you're navigating that, you want to make sure that you're considering non-competes to make sure that they're not going to go out and do something to harm the company's performance in the future. Most likely, you're going to have some type of connection to this, but if you sell your business, very often there is some sort of buyout or earnout where there's a progressive payout of what they owe you, or there's a progressive, period where you work and you earn out the rest of your pay. So in some cases, they'll take out a loan or the buyer will have seller financing. And by that, I mean the seller is willing to accept, because by the way, if you buy a business, you don't necessarily have to have any cash up front. Now, is there some cash up front? Most of the time, yes. But let's say there's a down payment or a cash payment up front, and then you agree to purchase the business for a certain amount of money. It's going to be paid off over the next 2 years. Well, if you're selling your business and these are the terms, now you have a vested interest in the company continuing on and thriving and succeeding. So now you have skin in the game because if they fail, you don't get paid. There's nothing to go after. So you have in your best interest their success. So you have to make sure that you're positioning them for success and that you are doing your part to make sure that there's retention and that there's a full team to be able to support. And even if you take all this advice, whatever you do, don't make promises you can't keep. Don't promise that the employees will be fine. Don't promise that the employees will all get their jobs unless you have something in writing that says that that will be the case. So, unless the buyer has explicitly stated this somewhere in writing, I would not promise anything to the employees because you can't speak for the buyer and you can't speak for what will happen after you leave because a lot will change. Their attitudes will change, motivations will change, and morale will change. If your buyer can't figure out the accounting and payroll system, and then let's just say that a payroll runs late. So if you have a payroll that runs late, the employees could be thinking, oh my God, like they don't have any money. The company's going under. What are we going to do? Oh my God. And it's like, no, we just took a day to figure out the payroll system or to get access in or whatever. We had this happen recently with a company that had acquired another company and they couldn't for the life of them figure out how to run payroll. And everything was a day late, which we gave a heads up on. But the problem was that the employees started to panic a little bit and go, oh my God, there's no money left. The company's going under. Like it was just this whole situation that didn't have to happen. So just keep that in mind that everything's going to be a little bit, exaggerated because people don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So they're going to start speculating and guessing. So if you can avoid that speculation as much as possible, that would be ideal. So this is all a lot to consider when it comes to communicating an exit and especially navigating the relationships with employees. I would hope that if you're contemplating this, that you have a good enough relationship with your employees that you would take all of this to heart and that you would consider having these conversations really direct with your employees and helping them understand exactly what's going to happen and just giving them some sense of encouragement and a positive outlook that when you are exiting, that this is a good move for the business that's going to help them grow and help their careers. That's the best thing that you can possibly do in order to make sure that everyone leaves that deal happy and satisfied. We realize that CFO services may not necessarily be accessible to everybody. And that's why we have packaged our CFO services into a power session for you. With this single purchase session, you'll be able to navigate the financial scorecard with me personally on your business and figure out what constraint you need to unlock next. We're going to give you direction, clarity, and we're going to find ways to increase your profitability, increase your cash flow, and make sure you never run out of money. Okay, if you're interested in booking a power session with me, I only do a couple per month, so make sure you jump on quickly and sign up. Check the link in the show notes for more information. I can't wait to see you in a power session.